Hello everyone, I'm Brian of WVGamers, and today we're going to review something a little different. Normally we are reviewing board games. I've been working on some video games recently, but in the beginning when we set out to do reviews, we said we were going to be doing things other than just those occasionally whenever something interesting came up. So today I'm going to do a little review of a piece of technology that I've been kind of researching for a while. Here at our house, we have a pretty large network of just kind of video games and security cameras and whatnot. And we've basically been living off of like our Netgear Nighthawk routers, which great. They are perfectly acceptable devices. But the problem is we find that a lot of times just we have too many disconnects. I have to restart the devices too often. So I finally decided it was time to upgrade. Again, we have a pretty big network, so why don't we go for something that's either like prosumer or your small business route. That's why I decided to pick up the UniFi Dream Machine Pro. Now, Ubiquiti, the company that makes this, makes a number of different networking devices that probably would have been more suitable for what we really needed. But I decided I would go this route because I wanted to have something that was going to be rack mountable, and this will fit. It should fit nicely in my network rack, I hope. So we're going to find out if I incorrectly measured or if I'm going to get lucky and everything's going to fit. So I've not opened this at all, so I'm going to go ahead and open it here with you all. And this kind of review will be over the course of a few different videos. This is primarily just the unboxing. I'll be doing a little video of kind of where it's going to be installed at, and then, you know, some updates based on the experience getting it set up, installed, and all of that. So, it's the first time I'm opening this, so hopefully everything looks good in here, and I'm not going to be surprised by anything. So let's get me on here. Okay, so inside we have a little box. This probably power supply or power cord and accessories, I would imagine. We'll get there in a minute. I'm just going to pull this out. Alright. Apologize for any of the noise from the microphone. So, this is what we get inside. It's nice and secure. Definitely should have no risk of damage from shipping, but luckily everything came in another box, so everything should be fine with this equipment. So let's get this pulled out and get this pulled out. And it's even in a nice little bag as well. I have destaticked myself already, so before going to touch any of this. Obviously that's more of a concern when you're working within the insides of components, but you know, I spent a lot more than I probably should have doing this because I really wanted to have a better networking experience. My goal is to basically have something that's a little more unified. I'm not playing a pun on the name. That's legitimately what I'm trying to do. Trying to make my experience with my network more like like when I go to do any work on it, I want to go to one web page and do configurations. I don't want to have my 10-plus-year-old Cisco Pro Curve where I'm going to have to go in and go into an Internet Explorer browser because the version of Java that I have is newer than what it can support, and then I don't want to have to go into a Netgear, the modem, and do settings inside of there. I don't want to have to go into like a pfSense box, an Untangle box, Sofo, something to do like my firewall and content filtering. I want to try to do as much within one ecosystem as possible. So that's kind of what the goal of this upgrade is. So I'm going to mute this just for a second because it sounds like this is going to be loud. I was correct. Alright, so let's get this pulled out of here. Alright. Has some nice little... I don't think I can possibly get the camera to see it, but you may occasionally see a little bit of an odd shadow reflection. Probably not by the looks of it, but it looks like they have like little Not sure if that's by design or if that's just something about the process of making this. It might also be how everything's secured down. I see like these little spots. That might be what it is. It might just be secured spaces on it on the outside that's securing the hardware on the inside. Alright, so I'm going to switch to front view. So what we have here is a rack mounted piece of networking equipment. For anyone who's not familiar, basically what's going to happen is I'm going to be placing some little ears here, and this entire thing is going to slide into a rack. And a rack is basically a piece of, I don't want to say furniture, it's a structure that basically houses all kinds of different computer equipment. And they have, they're divided up into units, which are 1 3/4 of an inch tall. So that's how tall this is. And so if you have something that's taller, like this is 1U. If you have something that's twice as thick as this, it'll be 2U, and then 3U, 4U, and so on. And the size of racks that they have to put these into are going to vary in size. Like I think mine in there, I think I bought a 12U, but it's also a network rack, so it's not very deep. That's where my concern was when buying anything. This should have no problems fitting in there. So what'll happen is I'll put those little ears on here, and then slide it in and bolt it in using cage nuts and special bolts. And then it should be nice and supported in there and nice and happy. So what we have here is over here, there's going to be a little screen. I'm not going to remove this until I actually get it into place so I don't damage it, but it's like a little over a 1-inch screen, 1.5-inch screen. It's not intended to do a whole lot with. It's intended mostly for you to do some check on statuses. You can see how many devices are connected. You can probably see the temperature. Maybe I don't know all the things that you can do with this yet. This is the first time I'm buying this. If you're watching this and expecting an expert tutorial, go to somewhere like Linus Tech Tips, or specifically I would say go to Craft Computing. He does a lot more in depth of walkthrough of setting these up. So I'd recommend going to them if you want anything that's going to help you set one of these up yourselves. This is mostly just, here's my experience from a more of a hobbyist who happens to also be in the field of technology, but just not a network engineer. So I do more programming and management stuff than networking itself. I like hardware. I do a lot of infrastructure, but networking is not it. So hopefully this will help me a little bit. So then what we're also going to have is we're going to have a little, let's see, this is, I think I'm going to have to pull this out. Yeah, there we go. So this product combines a number of different products that UniFi has. UniFi has their Protect line, which is what you'll, it's basically like a, not a DVR, NVR, is that what they're called? Basically, it's going to house a number of hard drives that allows your security cameras to connect to it and store footage anytime it detects motions and whatnot. And this combines that functionality into this one device. Now, their full line of those actually, I think, have more like 4 hard drives, where this is only going to have 1. So this is not going to give you the full experience, but it's going to be enough if you have a few cameras. You can utilize this device for that. And so this has a little tray. I did not opt for a hard drive because I don't have any UniFi cameras, so I'm going to look into them, maybe buy 1 or 2 just to play around with. There's a couple that are pretty cheap, but I didn't buy them because I spent a lot more on this than the girlfriend's probably going to be happy with, but she knows, but this thing would probably go a lot easier if I wasn't holding it, so I'll put that in here in a minute. It also combines just your typical 8-port switch where you basically connect all of your different devices together. Now, for me, I have way more than 8 Ethernet cables coming into my closet, so this is basically going to jump into my Cisco switch, which at some point I will replace the Cisco switch as well, again, because I want to have one ecosystem, but we're going to step into this. So this will basically connect everything through a 1 gigabit network for you here. This is your WAN port. This is what you're going to connect from your internet provided modem. You're going to plug it into here. From there, you're going to be able to get networking to all this to get to the outside world. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's where you're going to plug that in. Then you also have these two fiber ports, SFP ports, that will allow you to connect things together via fiber cable. Now, I'm not going to go through a tutorial of it, but with your standard Ethernet cables, you're working with copper. With fiber cables, you're working with like fiber optic cable that sends transmissions through light. This is more electronic. This is more light. Obviously, light's going to be a little bit faster, a little more reliable, but those cables are a little more prone to being damaged as well. But there's large strands of fiber optic cable across the country providing network to internet services to people all over. So they are pretty reliable, but for most devices, we're probably going to see more copper Ethernet cables continuing to be the standard, just because they can bend more and they're just less prone to damage. So you'll have two 10 gigabit ports there. So let's say your modem had a 10 gigabit output if you had that fast of internet. Obviously, most consumers are not. But this is made for small business and medium business, so they may have a better chance of having that. And then you're going to have your 10 gig port to go out to your network. So if I had another switch that was 48 ports, let's say, I'd hook that cable or fiber optic cable from here to that to be able to give a 10 gigabit interface between the two devices. So that's what that's basically for. Now, we won't go into any more of that side of stuff, but that, for the most part, is the front side. I'll put that hard drive cage back in a second. On the back side, you're going to have your standard power cable. This is just like your standard 3-pin cable that plugs into your computer and a lot of other devices, your monitors and whatnot. This is going to be your primary power for this device. They do have their own brand of a battery backup, like a UPS. I haven't looked into it because I don't really have any plans to get it anytime soon, just because of the cost. But you can go over here and pull this off, and it has a special cable that you'll hook from it to that device. Now, that device, I believe, powers 5 different devices off of it. So if you needed backup power for 5 devices, that would be a good option for you. Because in technology, especially in business, you want to have redundancy. Because what happens if this cable wiggles loose? If this was your primary point of your entire network, if something happens to this power on the main side that you're used to using, the little 3-pin, your entire network goes down. And if you're a business that depends on that, that's money being wasted. So that's why a lot of your equipment for your business side of things is going to have redundancy built in. So you can have 2 power supplies, and in the event that one fails, the other will still be up. Also, the idea is you don't want to plug your redundancy into the same port, because let's say your wall port dies. If you have both of them plugged in there, it's going to die. So what they really suggest is putting them on separate battery backups, UPSs, and plug those into separate circuits entirely, to ensure that your network and all of your equipment stays up. A lot of servers and things like that definitely have 2 power supplies in it. The server that I have also has the 2 power supplies. I have it plugged up to 2 different batteries. Now, unfortunately, I don't have 2 circuits in there. At some point, I'm going to hopefully get another circuit ran in there, but anyways, that's outside of the topic of this. So what my goal with this is I'm going to get this set up. Now, I don't have the access point, the UniFi access point that I ordered, because I actually decided to order their newest model, which is their Wi-Fi 6. It's basically the successor of Wi-Fi AC. That's what most people are familiar with. Wi-Fi 5 AC is the same thing. I think 6 is AX. So my goal with this is to get that Wi-Fi access point, put it upstairs, see how much coverage I have, and then from there get another one probably. Because our house is currently powered from 2 of the Nighthawk wireless routers. And it does pretty good, except for the fact that I have to restart them a couple times a week sometimes to keep them running. So I'm hoping, because these are, small business rated, that I'm not going to have those types of issues. Everything I've read, a lot of people have upgraded from like Netgear and other more consumer grade equipment, because of those issues, and they haven't had that with things like this. And there's like there's other options out there on the market. There's TP-Link that has an option. I can't remember the other ones, but I know there were quite a few others. I've been looking into Ubiquiti for about a year and a half to 2 years now, because our business, the business I work for, that I'm chief technology officer for, we're actually in the process of doing a network upgrade too. So part of this is me trying things without costing the business money to see if this would be kind of a good fit for us. And that's why I'm kind of looking into trying out the surveillance cameras, so we can replace our existing probably 5-7 year old cameras across the office with something like the Ubiquiti equipment, and just kind of see if that ecosystem, if it works well for me, it might be something that would be good for our business. So that's what I'm that's part of the motivation for me doing this. So it's just going to be a little slower because it is costly equipment. It is for a business. I'm not personally a business. I don't own a business. So this is just coming out of my pocket and me putting money back. So hopefully all this equipment works, and I just didn't spend a lot of equipment to upgrade my network and see no benefit. But I don't believe that's going to be the case, because my network is kind of a hodgepodge of different things. You got your HP Pro curve in there as my network. I've tried different things like pfSense, Untangle. I even tried Sophos for my firewall and content filtering. They probably work, but the devices I had were so underpowered that even with my 100 megabit network, if I turned on all the features that I really wanted, it would actually throttle my network down. So I'm hoping this is rated for, I think with everything on, it's like, I want to say it's 2 or 3 gigabits with everything on, because it's got a powerful quad-core processor in it. So this should be more suitable for the things I'm wanting to try. So, again, this is not a video, and this is not going to be a series of videos for anyone who is trying to learn how to do this. This is mostly from someone who is not a network engineer, who is kind of tinkering around with this to see if the Ubiquiti UniFi equipment is as nice as it seems like it is. So I'll talk more about this in future videos, because right now this was just kind of an unboxing. But I did order one other thing. Little tiny box. So another issue with your standard consumer modems that your internet service provider provides you is they also have this issue where if they lose a connection at some point, or if there's a power flicker, they won't always reestablish their internet connection, and you have to go in, unplug, or turn it off for like 10 seconds to reestablish that. Well, UniFi sells a little smart plug, which is no different, really, in the core of it. It's no different than your standard smart plugs from various providers like iHome or any of the other ones. Or GE, I guess is another one. This is their version of it, but it's specifically for the use case of restarting your modem in the event of, a loss of connection. So what will happen, as I understand it, and again, I'll talk more about this, is you'll plug in this to your wall or to your battery backup or your power or your PDU, and then you'd plug your modem into this. And this will act as a smart switch, and it will be controlled by the Dream Machine Pro. And when the Dream Machine Pro sees no connection coming in, you can configure it to send a restart command to this to basically power off and power on that modem. And in theory, since it's always monitoring your network, it's going to see that before you will. So if it notices it quick enough, it might be able to remedy the problem, restart, and have your entire network back up before you maybe even noticed. So I'm curious about this. This was really cheap, so this was a no-brainer to go ahead and try this. So kind of intrigued to see if this works, because while with Suddenlink, our internet service provider, we haven't had as many issues like that with our router, but we have had that issue. Now, when we had Frontier Communications, anyone who's in West Virginia is probably groaning right now, that's kind of like a daily occurrence, or at least a couple times a week occurrence, where the modem they provide you will just simply die and you have to restart it. It's not I'm not sure if it's because the modem itself is overheating. I mean, a few times mine was overheating or felt warm, but networking equipment can get very warm compared to what you perceive. And yeah, it's always a pain. So if this little like $15, $19 plug can solve that problem for me and ensure that my network is up most of the time, yeah, it's going to be worth it. So curious to see what this is gonna if this is gonna work or not. Even if it just stops that issue from happening a few times, to me it's going to be worth it. So that is the unboxing of the UniFi Dream Machine Pro. Like I said, there is a Dream Machine, and it's more for your home user, but it's not rack mountable. It's kind of like a cylinder. It looks more like one of the large Amazon Echoes, which is fine, but I have rack equipment already. I kind of just want to have it clean. I do have a half rack in my garage, but I'll do a video at some point when I'm installing this showing you my network closet and why I don't currently have my half rack in there. It won't fit. Luckily, it was given to me, so it's not like I spent money on it and found that it didn't work. It was simply a business got rid of it, so they're like, hey, you want this? Yes. So, anyways, I've rambled on enough. This has been the Dream Machine Pro unboxing. And the little, whatever this is, the UniFi USB plug. And look forward to some other videos probably in the next week or so after me posting this one, kind of walking through my experience with it. I'm not going to do a setup guide or anything like that. I'll link to some other good setup guides from some of those people that I mentioned earlier if you are interested in getting all this equipment yourself, if you find that you have a need for it. So, I'm Brian with WVGamers. Have a great day.